Let me go back in time a little bit. I've talked about my mom passed away a couple years ago. Very close to my mom. British, funny, witty, rock solid person. Ran my school district's food program. She was like the lunch lady at my high school. And we had a really neat relationship. And as she aged, she passed away at 81 years old. As she aged, we talk a lot about life and stuff. And, she would say, like, if I've been a good mom, how do you feel? And we just talked about parenting and stuff like that. She was a real rock for me to call every Sunday. In fact, when my mom passed away, I can remember like 2 to 3 Sundays after that, I'd be driving in my truck going somewhere, and I instinctively would grab for my own phone and call my mom. And I'm like, oh, my God. Oh, wow. And I'd get this voice recording. It was just eerie. And I'm not the only person that's ever gone through this. I'm sure you have. But it was funny, about 3 or 4 years before my mom passed away, she talked about, is there anything in the house that you want? She goes, I don't want any clutter. I'm not a hoarder. I'm kind of the opposite. Is there anything you want to remember me? And there was this gold box as a kid. We had it in our house for it's got to be 70 years old. There's this gold box. And it was made by a local artist on the coast of Washington, and it had these little, it's hard to explain. It's not real gold, but it looks gold, and it holds newspapers and firewood, and it's just this classic thing. And so she left it with me 4 or 5 years ago, and since then I've had a couple of houses. I've moved different coasts, and the problem with this gold box is there's no functionality to it. There's sentimental value to it, but it doesn't fit in any house I have because it's like 100 years old. And if you put it in the kitchen, everybody's like, what is that? Is there dog food in there? And if you put it in the living room, everybody's like, what is that? Unless you built a house around it, it's not overly functional, but there's sentimental value. That's how I see Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas is a great story. 5'8", last guy drafted, chip on his shoulder, abandoned by Boston. The sad story of his sister passing. He is a great story. There is unbelievable sentimental value. And the media, by the way, loves a good story. But he's not a great player. And what do you do with him? Sacramento had him. Doesn't fit. Phoenix had him. Doesn't fit. Boston's better without him. So now is Cleveland. The Lakers are the hottest team in the league. They brought in Isaiah Thomas. They lost. They're 0-1. There's the difference between a great story and a great player. Rodney Hood's a better player. Rodney Hood, Utah traded to Cleveland, is a much better player. But what's his story? He's just another good basketball player that went to Duke. What's his story? And I think sometimes the media, I've said this, the NBA season is long, and there's not a lot of urgency until about May or April. And so the NBA is always looking for a great story. I mean, if you were a sports writer, and you had to write an NBA story 4 days a week, and it's January, February, you're looking for stories, man. You're looking for, and Isaiah's a great story. He's not a great player. Like, Boston's better without him. Have you seen Boston's defensive ranking since he left? Did you watch that Laker-Dallas game? I mean, Rick Carlisle spreads the floor. Who's Isaiah Thomas guarding? All right, give him the ball. Like, he seems like a good dude. And it's impossible not to root for a 5'8" guy with his background, last guy drafted. Like, it's impossible. But Isaiah Thomas said something the other night. I'm going to play this bite from Isaiah Thomas after the Lakers lost, and here it is.
I just wanted to come in with energy. I just wanted to bring something to the table. Felt like I got my powers back playing on this team now, so I just wanted to bring that energy, bring that intensity, and make plays, and then the ball happened to go in.
He got his powers back. The problem is he doesn't have any defensive powers, and he's the shortest guy on every floor in this league, and it's now a league about spacing, and the really good coaches spread all the players out, and whoever Isaiah Thomas is guarding, that guy gets the ball. Okay, Isaiah Thomas. I was saying I think there's a great sentimental value, but I watch Isaiah Thomas and I'm like, Cleveland, sorry, I don't mean to be mean, but Cleveland's just way better without him, aren't they?
Yeah, but Isaiah Thomas also performed better. Look, the Isaiah Thomas thing, I think there's more, you can relate to this, or people can relate to this more than just the fact that he's 5'8" and averaged 29 points a game. In the last 6 or 7 months, he's lost $100 million, right? So when I drive to work, last time I lived in Southern California, the market was down.
Yeah.
And we were thinking about buying a house, but we hadn't sold our house in Connecticut, so we rented. And everybody's like, let's just see what the market does. And I remember I drove past the house, and it was $1 million. I said, man, $1 million is a lot of money for a house.
Right.
And it just sold for $2.3 million.
Right.
And so every time I drive past that house, I was like, I wanted that house. I almost bought that house. It was too expensive for me then.
Yeah.
And now there's no way I can afford it because, you know, California real estate has gone crazy.
Right.
Imagine if every time you go to work, you lost $100 million. That's what's happened. He played through an injury, which made it worse. Okay, he's already diminutive. The market does not appear to be one that's going to spike this offseason. Instead, it's more than settling. There actually looks like there's going to be a correction in the NBA offseason market, much like there's a correction in the Major League Baseball offseason market.
Right.
So I think that, yes, is Cleveland maybe better off without him? Sure, but it's got to be really hard to go to work every day playing around colleagues. Like last year, like it was 6 months ago, I averaged 29 points a game. I was an MVP candidate. I was going to make max money, and now I got traded 15 games in. So you're right, but remember, his first game with the Cavs, he lit it up. Right? He had, like 17 in 20 minutes. And so I think that a lot of this is first day at work, first day at school. Everybody loves their new teacher. Everybody loves their new outfit. Let's see what happens when the dust settles. I'm not disputing that they're not better without him, but I think there's a bigger personal story that people can relate to.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.